Hi, it's Luke from Weldpro. Today I'm here with part 2 of the MIG 155 series where I'm going to show you how to assemble all the components on this welder and get yourself ready to strike an arc. I'd like to give you a quick reminder before we get started. Weldpro customer service is open 7 days a week from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Give them a call at this number if you have trouble setting up your machine. Let's jump right into it. First, locate your ground clamp. Take the ties off of all your cables. We're going to go ahead and connect these now. Now that we've unraveled our ground clamp, both the MIG process and the stick process will be run in DC electrode positive. This means we'll be connecting our ground clamp to the negative terminal on the front of the machine. Turning this connector clockwise, ensure that it's secure. If you're going to be stick welding right away, go ahead and connect your electrode holder to the positive lug on the front of the MIG welder. We do this in a similar fashion to the negative terminal, clockwise, ensuring it's securely tightened. If you're not going to be stick welding, go ahead and set aside this stinger for now. If you're going to be using 110 volts AC, remove the plastic cover from the adapter. We'll then install this adapter onto the machine's 240 volt plug. That's all that's required to switch this machine from 240 volts to 110 volts. Next, locate your gas hose. We're going to install this on the back of the machine and then on the flow meter. This gas hose uses a ball and socket design. We'll use a wrench to snug this. Don't over tighten it. It is a brass fitting and it will strip out. With one end of our gas hose attached to our machine and securely tightened, let's go ahead and assemble the flow meter to the other end of the gas hose. With your flow meter in your hand, install this coupler onto the flow meter threads. This coupler is sealed to the flow meter by brass threads. Therefore, on this connection, you may choose to use Teflon tape to ensure a secure seal. Next, go ahead and thread the ball and socket from your hose into the bottom of the coupler. Secure this with a wrench. Next, I'll show you how to install this flow meter directly onto the mixed gas cylinder. To install the flow meter on the tank, insert the threaded connector into the tank valve and tighten clockwise. Before you tighten this connection, make sure that the flow meter is in the vertical position. This will ensure accuracy of the flow meter ball. Go ahead and use a wrench to tighten this fitting. It's important to note that even though we've installed this flow meter, the self-shielded wire does not require the shielding gas. We're doing this for future use of solid MIG wire. Now that our machine is assembled and ready to go, let's install our wire. There are a few tricks to this that will help you. Okay, so what you want to do is go ahead and open up the spool of wire that came with your welder. This wire tends to act like a spring, so hang on to the end of it so it doesn't come unrolled when you first open it. For now, I'm going to stick my MIG wire through this hole to hold it in place. The side cover on this machine is magnetic. Simply pull it off to remove it. Once inside the machine, we have the spindle where our spool mounts, as well as the tensioner on that. We also have the whole drive roll assembly. This contains the drive motor, the rolls, and the spring tensioner on top, as well as the liner tube that comes in from the MIG gun. Go ahead and flip this spring tensioner down and raise the top drive roll assembly. Next, we need to examine what kind of drive roll we have in place so that we know what to use for the wire type we have. There's a black 3-prong knob on this drive roller. Turn this counterclockwise and remove the cover and the drive roll. When looking at this drive roll, we see that the grooves are smooth. This is not what we want for flux core. We want to use our knurled roller. The self-shielded wire that comes on the spool is 0.8 millimeters, so I've matched our drive roll accordingly. Reinstall the drive roll and the black drive roll retention cap. Secure this by turning it clockwise, but don't over tighten it. Next, we're going to install the spool of wire onto the spindle. Do this by removing this retainer, spring, and washer. Install this spool directly over the spindle, but don't let go of this wire. Go ahead and install the washer, the retention spring. One thing to note, your machine came with 2 springs. One is a stiffer spring, one is a little softer. You may need to determine which one of these is right for the application and the spool size that you have. For this one, I'm going to use the softer spring. To install this retainer, simply push in and rotate clockwise and lock it in place. The next thing we'll want to do is feed this flux core wire through this tube, through the drive roll assembly, and into the liner of the MIG gun. If you look at the end of this wire, we're not going to be able to feed that bent up end through that nice straight tube. If you have a marred up end, go ahead and clip this off so it's smooth. We always want to make sure the spool feeds from the bottom, not from the top. If it's feeding from the top, it could kink this tube and present a problem with feeding. All right, ensuring that the end of our wire is real straight, go ahead and feed this into the tube. You'll see it come out and go through the drive roll assembly. Ensure that it follows the drive roll and the knurlings on the roller. Go ahead and pass this wire into the liner and feed a few feet by hand. Okay, we're ready to feed our wire through the entire MIG gun. Go ahead and close this top drive roll assembly. This will put pressure down on the bottom roll and ensure the wire pushes smoothly. Flip up your tensioner knob and tighten this down. Don't over tighten this. The purpose is simply to add a little pressure to the drive rolls so that the wire doesn't skip. By putting too much tension on a drive roll, you can flatten a tubular wire. Be careful. I've gone ahead and brought our MIG gun over to show you how to set this up. Before feeding the wire, it's very important you remove this nozzle and contact tip. To remove this nozzle, give it a gentle twist clockwise and pull directly out. Don't try to unscrew this nozzle. You'll break the spring and break the nozzle. Next, use a pair of MIG pliers to take your contact tip and loosen it, turning it counterclockwise. Unthread this by hand and leave it out. If you leave this contact tip in the end of your MIG gun when feeding the wire will likely hit this tip and break or jam up inside the liner and cause damage. Be sure to remove this contact tip before feeding the wire. Next, let's go ahead and energize the machine using the red power switch on the back. Go ahead and squeeze the trigger. The machine will go into an automatic feed mode. It'll send the wire through the liner and you'll see it come out the end. Be careful to monitor the spool as you're doing this so there's no tangles. That auto feed mode is an awesome feature. When you pull the trigger, if there's no arc sensed, the machine feeds wire rapidly so that you can get it through your liner a lot quicker without adjusting wire speed. It's important when you're setting wire speed on this machine not to just hold your gun in the air and adjust it. The machine will automatically go into that high speed setting and you'll have no control over your wire. To adjust wire speed, it's best to run a small pass, make an adjustment, run another weld, and see how it looks. Once our self-shielded wire is in, let's go ahead and reinstall this cover. It's a magnetic closure. Really cool design. Because we're going to be running self-shielded wire, what we want to do is install our ground clamp in the positive terminal and the wire or the dongle that feeds our wire feeder in the negative terminal. This will give us polarity that's DC electrode negative, appropriate for self-shielded wire. Thanks so much for watching. Tune in for part 3 of the series where we show you how to weld with the flux core wire. If you haven't had the chance to do so already, take a second and hit that subscribe button under the video. Here at Weldpro, we're committed to releasing lots of tutorials and how-to videos to help better equip you to weld. From all of us here at Weldpro, thanks so much for watching. We can't wait to see what you build with your MIG 155.